Hello, good to see y'all again. Doing something a little bit different today. Instead of doing the news, gonna do a deep dive on the American Indian movement, which we've been talking a bit about. But I think it's actually quite interesting. When I was looking through, I was reminded that um, this actually has a crossover with Minneapolis. Like, Minneapolis was a very important part of this story. So, that is quite interesting as well. Let me, uh let me get started with, like, a basic rundown. I saw something funny today. Apparently, somebody tried to break Luigi out of jail. They showed up with, like, pretending to be the FBI, and they said that they had some letter from a judge for his release, and they arrested the dude. But yeah, it's a pretty funny situation. And I solved my chat problem. So I fixed I have 2 screens, like 2 windows up now, and I can see the chat at the same time that I'm gonna be viewing other stuff. So now if I mute myself for you could all yell at me like I did last time and didn't, you know, we'll solve that, and now I could see stuff in real time if you all have tips while I'm reading through something, because that happens a lot too. So, I'm excited about that. Yeah. Let's take a look at this though, because I think this is super relevant, especially because it was founded in Minneapolis. There's a lot of issues with, ICE going after natives, and I think I'm gonna kind of probably do a series too of just resistance through American history, and you know a lot of the kind of things that aren't really told to us about, because I don't they want you to see a certain history of resistance, you know what I mean? Like the safe, y things that don't disrupt what they're doing too much. And also, this started to address systematic issues of poverty, discrimination, and police brutality against Native Americans. Back then, they called it Indian, of course, because that I don't think they had the language Native American back then. But I think many of them have said that they would change the name if they could today, if they were redoing it or whatever. But yeah, there's an interesting, so, like, I think it was around the '50s. I'll probably get into it in a minute, but I wanna give kind of like a quick thing. Um, they were trying to force all of the natives, like, into the cities, and trying to just even the little bit of land that they did have, they were trying to get their hands on that. The government and probably a bunch of corporations and stuff, because once you once all of the land is spoken for, they're gonna look for other land that they think that they can get out of, uh, you know, more vulnerable groups or people, you know? Um, yeah, it's a very weird thing. I'm not sure if it's true, but I think it goes back to, I've heard the myth that it comes back to Columbus being a dumbass and, like, thinking that he had landed in India. But I don't know if that's true or that's just one of those, myths that, you know, that get tossed around. It makes sense, but why did it stay like that, for so long? It's very weird. It also might have, like, a racial component too, because, like, they saw people in, different kinda races, and maybe they grouped natives with, Indian people. Yeah, it's definitely a weird one. But they were trying to force everybody out into the cities and just do away with the culture altogether and take over the rest of the land that was remaining. And this was a movement that grew up against that. And this also was coinciding with all of the other civil rights movements that was happening at the time. So let's see. Yeah, it was founded in Minneapolis, Minnesota, 1968. AIM soon widened its focus from urban issues to many indigenous tribal issues that American Native groups have faced due to settler colonialism in the Americas. These issues have included treaty rights, high rates of unemployment, the lack of American Native subjects in education, and the preservation of indigenous cultures. AIM was organized by men who had been serving time together in prison. Some of the experience that Native men in AIM shared were boarding school education, military service, and the disorienting urban experience. Yeah, and that for many of them, this was like, their first time being exposed to this because they were being forced out. Oh, yeah, that's what this says here. They had been alienated from their traditional backgrounds as a result of the United States Public 959 Indian Relocation Act of 1956, which supported thousands of American Indians who wanted to move from reservations to cities in an attempt to enable them to have more economic opportunities to work. That seems like a very charitable, interpretation. Let's see. Yeah, they did, with the boarding schools in Canada, that I've heard that that continued to even more recently there. So I opened up this new page to look at this act because I'm kinda curious. Um, the program of vocational training, the act has been characterized as an attempt to encourage American natives to leave reservations and their traditional ancestral lands to assimilate them into general population in urban areas and to weaken community and tribal ties. Yeah, I mean, now there is kind of been somewhat of an acceptance of the native culture coexisting, with the United States, but for the longest time, and by the United States, I mean, like, the government, for the longest time, it was seen as, like, an unnecessary resistance, like, they're always gonna resist you because you've taken their land, you know what I'm saying? So, of course, they want, assimilation. The act yeah, yeah. It has also been characterized as part of the Indian termination policy between 1940 and 1960, which terminated the tribal status of numerous groups and cut off previous assistance to tribal citizens. The Relocation Act encouraged and forced, natives to move to cities for job opportunities. It also played a significant role in increasing the population of urban Indians in succeeding decades. And this is where the constructed religion comes in, Mystery Babylon. Yeah, yeah, there they definitely did, force them to accept their religion and everything like that. Yeah, so a lot of this talks about how they're, like, assisting, but it seems kind of like a very charitable interpretation. Secretary of Interior Julius Krug, at the request of President Truman, proposed a 10-year program to provide Hopi and Navajo tribes with vocational training. In 1950, the Navajo Hopi Law, which passed, was funded a program to help relocate tribe members to Los Angeles, Salt Lake City, and Denver to help them find jobs. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's more the carrot than the stick, you know what I mean? Um, through the first half of the 20th century, the majority of American population had become increasingly urbanized, as cities were the places where jobs and related amenities. But in 1950, only 6% of natives lived in urban areas. The plan of cultural assimilation that was followed assumed that mainstreaming of American Indians would be easier in metropolitan areas. It's weird how they continue to call it that, even in the text. By 1954, approximately 6,000 had been relocated to major US cities. Interesting. So, yeah, let's scroll through a little bit of this, and then I got a couple of, like, videos I found. Yeah, so this is the part I was, that had reminded me of this, the other day. From November 1969 to June 1971, AIM participated in the occupation of abandoned federal penitentiary on Alcatraz Island, organized by 7 Native movements, including the Indians of All Tribes and Richard Oakes, a Mohawk activist. In October 1972, AIM and other Indian groups managed or gathered members from across the United States for a protest in Washington, D.C., known as the Trail of Broken Treaties. Public documents obtained under FOIA reveal advanced coordination occurred between Federal Bureau of Indian Affairs staff and the authors of 20-point proposal. Really? Oh, wow, that's good to know. Yeah, let me know if that keeps happening. I'll have to check my mic if it keeps on cutting. Um, so yeah, so there was another one too. I think it was like a Wounded Knee. That was one of their major. Let's see. In 1973, AIM was invited to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation to help gain justice from the border county's law enforcement and to moderate political factions within the reservation. They became deeply involved and led an armed occupation of Wounded Knee on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in 1973. During the 71-day-long occupation of Wounded Knee, the occupiers declared independent, Oglala Nation separate from the United States and set up a warrior society. During the occupation, women also took arms to defend the hamlet. Not sure what that means. Other events in 1970s were designed to gain public attention, ensuring that AIM would be noticed and highlighted, uh, and would be noticed and highlighting what they saw as the erosion of native rights and sovereignty. Yeah, so they, like, had armed, occupations of places, and a lot of different types of activism, really. But it was, I would say, successful to some extent in the fact that I think that the culture is much more preserved today than it would be otherwise, and th they might not even have their own land right now, you know, uh, if it wasn't for this movement. So let's take a look at one of these things I had saved. Let's see. This is, with some of the founders and just, explains how it starts. Couple of good clips of, Leonard, Peltier talking about, what happened to him and just his involvement in the movement as well. So, let me just 1 minute. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that I had to turn my, audio on. Why can't I mute that? Let's see. Alright, here we go. Gonna have to close that.
Had two masters. We only have one master,
That coming through?
grandfather. But since the United States government come to this Western Hemisphere, we have two masters. So we are confused who to believe, what to believe. But remember, we was born to be a red man, and we was born to be a nation.
And the reason for Dennis Banks and Clyde Belcourt to be part of the formation of the movement was they were in prison. And they saw the racism going on right in the prison. There was no religious freedom rights. And so I think they came out of the prison, the institutions, with a determination to change what they had experienced. And
I kind of chaired the first meeting, saying that we have to do something about the police brutality, about the slum housing conditions, high unemployment that we're in, and the more we talked, the more people started to ask questions. Then there was one guy out there in the audience who was saying, "Well, what kind of action are we going to do?" And I'd say, "Well, we've got to form a committee. We're sick of committees. Well, these committees don't do nothing." So everything that I was talking about was being challenged by this guy, and the guy, of course, I knew, and that was Clyde Belcourt. And he wanted action right now. And we said, okay, we're going to go do it tomorrow morning. Well, we said, well, maybe Monday we can go meet with the police. No, we want to go tomorrow morning. So I said, all right, who wants to go tomorrow morning? So they formed people to go see the police chief right there.
We were all there at this meeting. And so we brought together, I guess, the summation of all our lives, all our experiences at a time when I always expressed it that we were about to be written out of history as roadkill cultures of manifest destiny.
It was called the Indian and White America. And the statistics that came out of the study was basically that Indians were living to be 44.5 years of age. That the average income on most reservations was between $1,500 and $2,000 a year. That unemployment on most reservations was as high as 80-90%. The housing, that I think at the time, 40% of the American Indian housing didn't even have electricity nationally, and some reservations was higher than that. Dene Nation in particular, Navajo. The educational level of attainment for Indian students was 8.5 grades. So all these conditions were probably, and there was no question, they were the worst conditions in terms of social measurement of any ethnic group in America.
And at that time, when a white man killed an Indian, he was given manslaughter. When an Indian killed a white man, he was given first-degree murder. A form of frontier justice was going on that we knew we had to address.
How I came to know about the American Indian movement was we had a loss in our family. One of our grandpas, Raymond Yellow Thunder, was brutally murdered in Gordon, Nebraska. My mother, Grace Eagle Fox, her mother was Raymond's older sister. Her name was Annie Yellow Thunder. And that happened when he was murdered, and the family came to Dick Wilson, who was a chairman, and for help into looking into the murder of our grandpa Raymond Yellow Thunder, but there was no help from there. They went on into the BIA to ask the superintendent and those in power at the BIA for help, but there was no help. And so a relative from Porcupine, Sievert Young Bear Sr., the family contacted him, and he had found out that American Indian movement was meeting in Nebraska I don't know if it was Omaha or Lincoln, but they were having a national meeting there. So they sent Sievert Youngbear as a runner from the Yellow Thunder family to go to Omaha to ask AIM to come and look into the death of Raymond, and they wanted something to happen and to shake up those officials in Gordon, Nebraska. So
The incident of Raymond Yellow Thunder's death.
So yeah, then I'm gonna move on to this one, which gets to Wounded Knee and stuff, and then I'll move on to the interview, which I have a couple points on that too. But yeah, okay, so it was the Christopher Columbus thing. I thought I heard that, but I just wasn't sure how true it was. But that makes sense. He definitely was an idiot, in addition to many other things.
When you hear something like that, you know, the power of that drum kind of overcomes you, and you realize that you're in a very special moment. You know, there's a lot of power, spiritual. And then wasn't shortly after that, a woman by the name of Moves Camp. She got up and she said, you know, she said, I'm tired of my brother's dying of alcoholism.
Here we go.
In some ways, it antagonized a lot of the conservative Indian leadership across America, because all of a sudden we had different entities of government saying, well, these are not the elected officials of Indian tribal government, therefore they're not really representative of Indian people.
Yeah, that was another kind of struggle at this time, is that there were you know how the US government, they install puppet governments everywhere that they, you know, are trying to colonize people. And they did the same thing here with the natives. So the governments that were in place were not on the side of the natives. They were on the side of the US government, even though they were native people. It just like, that is how the governments worked. And so this group AIM was not only rising up against the US government, it was also in a way rising up against the tribal leadership that was collaborating with the US government.
People, almost like saying, you know, like they do in colonial times, that, you know, these are not the good Indians. These are just rebel rousers, urban Indians that are coming to disrupt as outside agitators. So there was as we talked about earlier,
They've been saying that outside agitators thing for so long. It's crazy.
a lot of reaction across Indian America, but for the most part, when they saw the support that we had from the elders and from the young people across America in the colleges who were flocking there, of all colors, of all races, even our conservative tribal representative had to support Wounded Knee. So in a way, it's probably been one of the greatest coalitions that was ever built in the 20th century amongst our Indian people to stand up to the government.
I'm so glad that I was part of history, modern day history, modern day Indian history. I was a part of it, not just being because Teoshrine and my family, you know, are part of that. They'll go down in history along with me. And hopefully that'll influence the generations to come. You know, that it wasn't just an incident. You know, the Red Power movement changed our history for us. So sometimes you got to do it. You got to get out there and just put it on the line. And I did it. I was part of history.
Well, the FBI conduct is atrocious regarding Leonard Pelletier. They started out by seeking and manufacturing a perjured affidavit by someone who...
Well, actually, instead of listening to this guy, we'll just listen to Leonard himself.
That fear. Yeah.
This could start at around 20 minutes. The first, 20, they're talking about his recent release and stuff like that.
Resistance, you know.
So talk about the founding of AIM, the American Indian Movement, which you today would like to rename the American Indigenous
Well, I was involved in a number
That was a perfect cue up, I gotta say.
of different organizations before I joined AIM. And one of the biggest ones that I helped organize the United Tribes of All Indians in Washington State, and we took over Fort Lawton. One of the treaties that we were pushing them days, actually, our people older people were pushing this too, but they just passed. All of our knowledge came from traditionalists. That's what policies, the American Indian Movement. We followed there. First of all, people got to understand the American Indian Movement policy is they can't come onto this reservation and start dictating their policy. They have to be invited by the traditionalists or tribal government or what else. We can't just go onto a reservation and say, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. No, we can't do that, and we don't do that. We have to be invited first. So anyway, this was before I joined the American Indian Movement. I was involved with the fishing and hunting struggles over there. That was a big area that they really fought hard and got really
Fishing and hunting rights.
yes, treaty rights. In fact, Marlon Brando got arrested with us in 1955. He got arrested.
I didn't know about that. I didn't know that he did that. That's crazy. Marlon Brando.
Lake. I wasn't there, but he got arrested fishing and hunting with the natives out there.
So talk about the occupation of the BIA offices in Washington, moving on to Wounded Knee and Pine Ridge.
Well, it just, our resistance became extremely popular. American Indian Movement was growing, and not just.
Yeah, and just to give some background, this guy was arrested a long time ago for allegedly shooting federal agents, and was just pardoned a couple years ago, and is now basically on somewhat house arrest, kind of. Like he's allowed to leave, but he has to call a parole officer or something.
Here in America, Canada, Central America, see a lot of full-bloods all through Central America, more than here in the United States. And we were uniting with all of them, all those natives across this country, across this whole continent, I mean. And we were uniting, we were pulling together with the American Indian Movement. That's why we became a threat to the government. So, they later on when I was arrested, after I got arrested, this one guy was telling me, he said, yeah, I just went down to Mexico someplace, one of them towns. And he said they were organizing resistance and stuff like this. He said, I was down there visiting him. He said, I went to this guy told me he was some kind of medicine man or something. So I went down there and visited him. And so I went into his place, he had a kind of a hut-like home, I guess. And he said, what did I see? He said, I see your poster on one of the walls. That's so far back. We went through all that stuff. And so anyway.
But especially for young people to understand, I mean, you're talking about this critical moment of 1973, 4, and 5.
60s, actually.
What's that?
Started in the 60s. Really.
And also the height of the anti-war movement, and the role and the effect of the anti-war movement on the Native American movement and vice versa. If you can talk about those critical moments.
I was, and others were, a lot of us natives we were also involved in the peace marches and with the blacks and the anti-war movements and things like that. We were involved in all that stuff too. But we were working on trying to get their support, and they were working on trying to get our support. Then the hippies came out, and the hippies really helped us. The hippies did a lot to help us. They started dressing like natives. They started doing things like native people, and a lot of them came from very, very wealthy families.
That's interesting. How that was seen as such a compliment then, and now it's weird. Like, I don't think that most natives have a problem with like an appreciation, like if you're wearing the stuff in an appreciative way. But if you're just like you know, getting drunk and taking Instagram photos at Coachella and stuff, that's probably like disrespectful. I'm pretty sure that's how it would probably fly now. But it is just interesting.
The people hated them. That's one of the reasons the government hated them, is because they were really pushing the native issues, you know, the culture and stuff like that.
So the Trail of Broken Treaties, that was 1972. Explain what it is, which was a takeoff of the Trail of...
We knew that we had to get...
Yeah, I think that there is definitely a line when it comes to the intent with appreciation and appropriation and all that, for sure.
Get to...
and if you're profiting off of it.
Get the government to start honoring our treaties, because they never honored our treaties. And the only way we could do this is to go right straight to Washington. And so we organized a group, we called it the Trail of Broken Treaties. And we all organized from all over the country. They sent representatives in old cars. We had nobody had new cars in them days. And we all went to Washington.
You went.
And see, this was so recently. And I remember, I'm not sure, because, you know, I know that the way that they teach history in school has changed a little bit. It has kind of gone back and forth. But I remember when I was in school, they didn't teach any of this. And it was all taught like this happened so long ago. And, you know, there was really no connection today. When you see that, like, in our modern world, there was essentially this very close to what could have been a war at many times between the tribal nations and the U.S.
Of course I did. Of course I was there too, yeah.
This is, of course, a takeoff on the Trail of Tears, and most people in our schools, and maybe less so, especially now, will ever even know what the Trail of Tears was.
Right, precisely. That was all past. Everything we did, we called it, well, like the Trail of Broken Treaties. That was done under the Trail of Tears and Long Walk, all them other events like that happened. It wasn't just the Trail of Tears. That's what people have to understand. The Trail of Tears was just one of them that became so well known, because I think 10,000 people died on that. And they're laying alongside the trails and stuff, from dying from sickness, malnutrition, all that stuff on the Trail of Tears. That's why.
This was under President Andrew Jackson.
Yes.
The president who President Trump
was
revered.
His order, yeah. He was a hater, and so we
like the presidents that Trump reveres are always like the biggest scumbags.
We every event that we organize under basically the same policies of exposing what was done in the past and continue to be done, and we still find it's still happening today, Amy.
Are you getting AI to cook up that numerology or whatever you're throwing in there?
Ann Coulter had made a public statement that about Native people, that we didn't kill enough of them Indians. That's a very dangerous thing to say about anybody, because there's a bunch of nuts out there, like, you know, you take one of them haters and everything. I mean, he could end up killing a lot of innocent natives just because those type of words. You got a president trying to do away with our treaties. If our treaties go, we go. This is the only thing to prove that we are a sovereign nation and a race of people. And if that goes, we go as a race of people. So it's not ending for us. We're still in danger. Yeah, you see it happening in the streets. You know, I mean, right today. Or look at what they're doing in Palestine. killing women, children, babies, unborn babies. That's what they did to us, man. And here it is.
Wow. I didn't catch that when I listened to this the first time around. Maybe it was on because it was on 2x speed like I do everything, but he just said what they're doing to Palestine is exactly what they're doing to us. Or what they did to us. Yeah, that's wild.
Still happening.
So 52 years ago, 1973, the start of the American Indian Movement's 71-day occupation of the village of Wounded Knee on Pine Ridge Reservation, occupation helping draw international attention to the plight of Native Americans, the U.S. government responding to the occupation with a full military siege that included armored personnel carriers, F-4 Phantom jets, U.S. Marshals, FBI, state and local enforcement. During the occupation, 2 Sioux men shot dead by federal agents, and a Black civil rights activist, Ray Robinson, went missing. The FBI confirmed in 2014, decades later, that Ray Robinson had been killed during the standoff. Most people don't know about this history.
No.
Maybe they've heard the book, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. So can you talk about Pine Ridge and Wounded Knee, especially for young people who don't know the history?
I was in jail during the beginning of Wounded Knee, but I got out, was about halfway through. Then I went up there and I helped pack in stuff into Wounded Knee, and I stayed out there on the outside forces. After we made all those trips to Washington and all those other demonstrations and all those promises, they were going to do this and do that. They were going to investigate everything, all of our acquisitions and all that stuff. And we soon found out, we knew anyway, but we soon found out that it was all a lie. They weren't going to investigate, and they didn't. And so finally the elders and the chiefs made the decision to go to Wounded Knee. AIM had no part in that decision. We cannot go any place in Indian country and make policies. We can't. That is not us. We can't do that now, and we can't go unless we're invited by those people. They just got fed up with so many more false promises and what was happening. They were being terrorized by a group organized by a mercenary group, I might add. They were provided with intelligence, armored piercing ammunition, sophisticated weapons, surveillance and stuff like this, automobiles and stuff. And the leader made that admitted that on a national interview. So we know that's all true. They tried to deny it at first, but they called themselves the guardians of the Oglala Nation. And
yeah, that's the corruption that I was talking about with the leaders.
The goons.
The goons.
Dick
Wilson, all of them. Nixon ordered the 82nd Airborne to go and investigate what's going on down there, and we were like the government was claiming that we were communists and Marxists, and we were being financed by the communists. They were to go out there and wipe us out. When Nixon got the 82nd Airborne involved in it, we filed a lawsuit, and it took us 10 years. But we got all this information out of the files that they had to turn over.
I would be willing to bet that they did not even believe that they were being funded by the Soviets, and that they were just using that as an excuse to attack them. And I mean that's the classic McCarthyist play
to us, right? And we found that they had went to the armory and checked out 250,000 rounds of various caliber ammunition, different sophisticated weaponry, armored personnel carriers, and finances and surveillance and stuff like that. See, that was all illegal, and that's how we found out a lot of stuff about what they were doing there, and it was all illegal. If it would have been left to Nixon, he was going to wipe us out. But
yeah, so it trails off a little bit there, but I thought there was some important things in there. I want to get to some recent stuff though, that is you know, kind of crosses over with this, because remember, this group was founded in Minneapolis. So I saw a couple of things today, and of course I did a video on this like last week of some incidents that were happening in Minnesota, or even in Minneapolis, but throughout Minnesota on the reservations there, where ICE agents were going into reservations, specifically targeting the homeless areas of the reservations, like the homeless shelters, because people would not typically have identification there, and grabbing those people up. So one of the places that people are being sent to is a place called Fort Snelling. And this is a place where indigenous women, children, and elders were confined after 1862 in deadly conditions. So this was like,
This
you know,
Christianity.
There's no way one person. There's no way one person could say exactly what happened at Fort Snelling. It's something that should have never happened.
Armed soldiers and angry white settlers harassed and brutalized the Dakota interned at the site. Visiting missionaries worked to convert the Dakota to Christianity. Estimates of deaths in the camp that winter range from 100 to 300, mostly due to outbreaks of measles and other diseases.
And there must have been a lot of them that died there. And what happened to them? Expendable, I guess.
And this is where people are being sent now, and not, of course, natives and probably U.S. citizens and immigrants as well. And this was discussed in Congress, I guess, that let's see, Native American tribes have been targeted by ICE.
The tribe, is it my understanding, is it correct that you've been here for a month trying to locate the 3 men of the Oglala Sioux tribe who are being held by ICE or DHS, who are indigenous men? They're members of a tribe. Are you still searching for them?
I received a phone call from elected officials of the Oglala Sioux tribe, and they were in town, and so they wanted to go to the detention center, to the Whipple detention center, to inquire as to the whereabouts of their tribal citizens. And we were not able to gain any clarity, because these are people who are on the street. These are houseless relatives. Their names are unknown. And so at this time, we don't know where our people are. There are several other Native American people who've been profiled, clients of mine who've been profiled, who were mistaken and told that they look like the Ecuadorian that they were hunting. You have people who work for the city who are Native American who are being profiled, because really there's no way to tell the difference between the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere. These are our cousins that are declared illegal and alien. They look just like us. So
that's a damn good point. That is a damn good point right there.
We are still looking for our people at this time.
I need everybody here, watching, live or later, to hear what Mr. Iron Eyes is saying. There are members of Native American tribes, the people who were here, who have always been here, who are still here, that are being held by this government. What authority does ICE have over Native Americans, over US citizens? None. This is outrageous. And Mr. Iron Eyes, I want to thank you for coming here and continuing to work with elected officials and the tribes here to locate these members of your tribe. It is abhorrent that we are hearing this today.
So last week it was like we knew about one guy. Well, there were 4 people that were arrested. and taken to detention centers from the Indian reservation that we knew about, or Native American reservation that we knew about from watching those old documentaries and stuff. My head got stuck in that. Yeah, so there was one guy missing. Now there's an untold number. Like, we don't even know how many people are missing at this point now. And especially with them targeting homeless shelters.
Oh, perfect. Perfect, huh? What are you? What are you? Are you an American citizen? No, you're not. You're not a firstborn. You're not from this land. And neither are you. Not from this fucking land. Got you on live.
Yeah, so it looks like these people are being harassed here, these natives.
Your skin is brown as ours, fucker. We didn't cross the border crossed us. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, this shit's insane that this is happening. Like, just the insane, like, irony, for lack of a better word, that you know, these are the people who belong here if anybody does, and they're getting told, or they're getting not just told, but kidnapped.
Fucking three of you fuckers. Fucking my son died.
I just got a call from saying that my brother was detained by ICE. We're Native American. He has a tribal ID. They didn't accept that.
That's another thing, is that they haven't been accepting tribal IDs as legitimate. That's another issue.
Sorry. This is not okay. We should not have to carry things because of our identity and what we look like. I don't know what to do. Everything's closed today. I can't contact our tribe. I'm from Sisseton, Wahpeton. I don't know. I don't know what to do. This is just so unacceptable. So unacceptable to have. I can't even speak because, like, I'm at a loss for words right now. But his name is William LaFramboise. He is Native American. He was detained by ICE today. I got a call that he was detained today. If anybody knows what I can do, please.
And I have seen dozens of videos like this.
And this is what you do?
Where this has just been happening on a regular basis. People have been getting scooped up, and they shouldn't even be stepping foot on these reservations. And really, they should be safe to go wherever. Those tribal identity cards should, like, as soon as they see them, they should just walk away. I mean, they shouldn't even exist as an organization, but, like, come on. The fact that they are doing that is just so nuts. Yeah, so they've also been robbing people. I saw, let's see if I can find it. They have been straight up robbing people. There was one guy that was walking around with, like, a gold chain that he took from somebody, and another one, they actually stole somebody's car. Oh, it's definitely going pretty crazy. There is some good news, though. At least some promising news. it does seem like they're drawing back to some extent. Tom Holman gave a press conference today where he basically said that they would be reducing their numbers in the city at least. And you know, in many cases I would think that yeah, they're just going to move to the next city like they would before. Oh yeah, John Trudell is amazing. That was a big inspiration to me early on when I first started writing. Uh yeah. But I would usually think maybe they're just going to tour to the next city, but they got kicked out of Maine too. And apparently they're not going to be in Maine either. So I think we're hitting a point where this resistance movement is kind of actually working. And usually the actual tangible effects that you can see from protests are usually kind of limited. I mean, I'm not saying that they aren't important and that they don't have an impact, but it's like you usually can't measure the impact right away. But in this case, I really feel like you could, because there's a lot of direct action involved. Like these people are using their rights to make the jobs of these people more difficult, and it's gotten to the point where unfortunately, like, people have gotten hurt along the way, and it probably wouldn't have happened unless people got hurt the way they did. But a lot of people are going against this, even people that were on board with Trump before, like not the total fascists, but the people who were kind of like in the middle and just got sucked into some podcast bro shit. They seem to be having an issue with this. So and it wouldn't have happened unless this resistance happened. And it seems like it's kind of been proven that this works, you know? So I feel like any city that ICE goes to in large numbers like this and tries to pull something like this, they are going to be met with this same kind of shit, this same kind of resistance. And I think they're just going to re-strategize. So what I'd imagine is maybe they will shift to more of a crime-based situation where they try to cooperate with prisons, do it more quietly. It depends on a few things for sure. But I do think that they're going to try to re-strategize at this point and figure out something else. I, I I don't know how long this paper please thing can go on. Luckily, because of the resistance that it has. Maybe I'm being naive, but I think that public opinion still has some impact, because at the end of the day, they know if you piss enough people off, there's always going to be more of us than there is of them, and that's until they get sufficient technology, that's going to be a problem. So yeah, I think that's kind of what we're going to see, and it seems like even in Minneapolis that the tactics might have slowed down a little bit. I have been seeing some videos, like they're still going door to door in some areas, but I'm not sure how old those videos are. Sure, they're still attacking people, but there's a lot of attention on what's happening. There's a lot of attention on Dilley down in Texas, the detention center where they're holding people. And I learned today that none of the people that are being held at Dilley are guilty of any crimes. None of them are charged with any crimes, because if they would, they wouldn't be there, because they would be in like a prison. So it's kind of crazy. Where does American nationalism and imperialism meet indigenous stewardship and Paine's anarchism? At the moral crossroads of sovereignty, domination versus relationship, empire versus ecology. That's a very good point. Yeah, definitely. I can see that for sure. That's a interesting point. There's a website, Thunderworld, and it has a post from today that seems to show they haven't been released yet. What hasn't been released yet? One has been since released. He's urging citizens to carry tribal IDs. Oh, one of the people that are locked up. He's urging citizens to carry tribal IDs as ICE operations continue. Starr notes that the detained men were living in a homeless encampment near Little Earth housing complex. Yeah, that's what I thought. And that's twisted. Like, these people aren't going to have IDs because they're in a homeless shelter. And then, they're on a native reservation. So I guess, they're going to like fit the description, Yeah, that's true as well, is that I can definitely see a lot of Marxist thought being kind of like very aligned with indigenous, a lot of indigenous governance and stuff like that, especially when it comes to the perspective on property and stuff. Yeah, I mean, even within Marxism, there's like 10 different, maybe not 10, but there are multiple different eras and concepts of Marx. So he didn't always agree with himself, and a lot of the stuff that like has kind of like the means of production is entirely different than it was the 300 400 years ago, or 200 years ago, or whatever, when the book was written, whatever was up with my math. um you know what I mean. So in the past 20 years, the way that we interact as employees and stuff has changed so much, and especially with gig work. um I think I've always been in favor of new people creating new ideas that build on the old ones instead of just following the old ones. You know what I mean? They saw freedom without kings, social equality, communal land, moral law without church. This helped produce social contract theory. I like how they taught us Native American ideas are behind our democracy whilst we put them in land prisons. Yeah, exactly. It's terrible. And I mean, I know in the East Coast, many people like when they see something happening with natives in the news, they're like, "Oh, I forgot that they were still even around." You know what I mean? Because in the East Coast, there's like nobody's out here. It's all out in the Midwest and everything, and where you'll actually run into natives or pass the reservations. So it's a lot of people on the coast probably don't even know what's up. Maybe out west though, it's probably more common. The only real paid protest is a mutual aid network. Yeah, I've never really heard of a paid protest. I mean, probably for political candidates, especially local political candidates. Like if you're running for mayor of a small town, I could see there being a paid protest for sure. You get like 50 people out there and you make it look good or whatever, but yeah, exactly. Montana, in those areas. But in a lot of the country, people don't even, they just think about that as a part of our history. They don't even realize that it's a part of our present and that the genocide is still taking place. You know, and now I feel like the government is in a place where it's hard to it's hard to do anything forceful at this point with the direction that the culture is taken. But I can see Trump totally trying to roll back that norm as well, because right now we do have somewhat of a norm in this country where people, at least when we were growing up, we were taught that, it was kind of fucked up what happened, at least, you know? Um, and like with having Christopher Columbus Day being changed to Native Peoples Day and stuff, even though some people still go with the Columbus thing. But the fact that there are at least attempts, and that is written on some calendars, is just a sign of the culture changing to the point where it would be less acceptable for a government to do something forceful. But like I said, a lot of those kind of norms are being rolled back right now. Oh, Nick Shirley apparently paid some paid some Hispanic people to hold up signs endorsing Biden. I'll see if I can find it. I would not doubt that about him. He also fell for what was it, like a post from a parody page from the Minneapolis mayor, and he just totally fell for it and reposted it, like, look at this idiot, and it was just a parody page. Yeah, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Trump already blocked a land treaty because they blocked Alligator Alcatraz. That 100% I can see that happening. I'll probably, let's say, I feel like we'll definitely appreciate and celebrate the indigenous heritage of these lands. Nick Shirley still, yeah. Yeah, I don't like that kid. I mean, he played a key role in what is happening right now. Like with this whole attack on Minneapolis with that whole fraud bullshit. Meanwhile, all of Trump's people are committing fraud. There's fraud everywhere there, and they're trying to, yeah. Hello, welcome, Rosie Finn on Twitch. Nice to see you in here. Yeah, that's awesome. That I unfortunately, many of my friends were on Standing Rock or were at Standing Rock, but I had cancer during that time, so I could not make it out, unfortunately. Oh yeah, Canada. I feel like there's still like a lot more going on with that in Canada. Before his focus on Minnesota, Shirley was known for producing videos in support of Donald Trump, including a stunt. Stream is going good so far today. I got like a little bit left. I'm just hanging out and chatting now. I went through a lot of the news, and we put some context for some of the stuff that's been happening to natives recently in regards to ICE. Yeah, I agree, Michelle. That makes a lot of sense. I do play some games sometimes, but I haven't ever on stream. I might try it sometime. We'll see. Yeah, I'm just starting to stream, and we'll see if I do more activities. But yeah, I do think it is promising that they got kicked out of Maine. Let me just get that up real quick. There have been a lot of scary videos out of Maine, so it is pretty promising. Let's take a look at this. Come through Sabby Sab's next call in. She's doing good mutual aid work and hosts an after Zoom every week. That's cool. Yeah, she's one of my favorite creators. I am from Maryland, like rural Maryland, between Philly and Baltimore, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, yeah, Trump is suing the IRS for $10 billion. I just saw that before I got on. I just saw the headline, but I didn't get to read into the story that much. Yeah, the world should sue Donald Trump for sure. So yeah, let's take a look at this real quick. The reported ends of ICE's enhanced operation in Maine does not end the pain and suffering that they have inflicted on communities across the state. People have been terrorized, mothers been separated from their children, businesses who have been threatened, all by their own government. We still do not know critical details about 200 individuals ICE says it detained, many of whom appear to be here legally, who have no criminal record and who are not the worst of the worst. The people of Maine deserve to know the identities of every person taken from here, the legal justification for doing so, where they are being held, and what the federal government's plan for them are. Yeah, they were definitely probably flown to Texas. For what I've learned is that Texas is one of the few states where these things exist in. I guess because there's a lot of space, and in a lot of other areas where there's less space, there's neighborhoods nearby that complain about it and don't want it in their backyard, essentially. Oh wow, Virginia, yeah, that's cool. I used to throw raves in DC and Baltimore and Virginia. I've been streaming for a month now, but I've been involved in like blogging and activism and journalism for like 10 years, and I got a couple books. Yeah, yeah, he definitely totally corrupted the like the presidency was already incredibly corrupt, but he made it so brazenly corrupt. Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate it. Space and Starlink should be absorbed by NASA, and we should give Tesla to Canada. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm definitely working on improving the look of everything. Cool. I'll follow you after the stream. I'll check out your profile. I appreciate the offer. Trump represents an anthropic compression response to civilized anxiety, translating real desires for sovereignty and dignity into centralized mythic and coercive political forms. Wow, that's deep. Yeah, actually, that's a good. I have a Discord server that we just started, and I meant to post it in the stream, but I didn't. We just started this a few days ago, and I'm still getting it fully set up because I work full time and I do ghostwriting too, so I am quite busy. But I'm posting this link here. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Here's the Discord link. And my name on Discord is just John Vibes, so I'm pretty easy to find as well. 95% of our population was wiped out from colonialism. Today, we are the majority, not the minority. They are. Yeah, it was, you know, it's crazy that this world that we live in and the, you know, just the things that people accept. Trump has a very long history of hating native rights. Yeah, I could see that for sure. What was that? I missed, I couldn't pay attention at the beginning of the stream. We'll have to go back and catch it. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting history, you know what I mean? And I think these are one of those resistance groups that they don't want you to know about for so many different reasons, because I think that they were fairly successful with what they did, and they also don't want you to know how recently the how the genocide is still taking place, honestly. They don't want you to make those connections. Yeah, yeah, I know. The whole "not in my backyard" thing. He was on the news saying, "I want higher home prices." Yeah, I will definitely accept, I'm gonna probably end the stream in a couple minutes, and I'll be able to talk to you. I appreciate that. We're stuck in a backwards, upside down world with your rogue government and foreseeing. Well, I appreciate y'all joining me for the stream tonight. It's like a succubus that craves people's misery. I'm always astounded that people believe him when he lies to everyone. Yeah, that blew my mind because I had conversations like last summer, or I guess the summer before he won the election, and there were like I respected these people, and they were like, Trump's gonna be awesome, he's gonna do all this stuff, and I'm like, what, dude? What are you talking about? Like, don't you remember the last time? Haven't you listened to a word coming out of his mouth? Did you see the signs that said mass deportation at the convention? Like, what do you think that looks like? It looks like a police state. That's the only way to do mass deportations. Come on now. You know? I don't get it. I don't get it. Well, it's been good chilling with y'all. I appreciate the chats at the end of the stream. And I'll catch you tomorrow. We'll return to the news, and maybe I'm working on a new Epstein thing as well, like a new set of clues, I guess you could say. There's been some new stuff that's popped up that is pretty crazy there. At least some new theories. Awesome. Yeah, definitely join the Discord and have a chat in there. All right, catch you all later. Peace.